right, cool. So, just gonna jump right into it. Yeah, thanks for hopping on the podcast. And whoever's listening now, I'm gonna have my guy Walker Hoffmann over here. Gonna kind of bring him in, kind of talk a little bit about how he sees the Browns from an outside perspective. He's a Giants fan over here, so hopefully he can give us a little bit more insight on kind of what he sees that we don't see because we're so, caught up in one team and one type of thinking where, there's different perspectives around the league and, kind of how they see our team and where they can see some holes where I just don't. I mean, I'm so engrossed into it that sometimes I'm just kind of oblivious. So that's what today's all about, going into the draft. So we're going to have, obviously the Browns don't have a draft until number 74, which is in the third round. So hopefully some diamond in the roughs come to us. So without further ado, Walker, what's going on, man?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Not too bad, dude. Not too bad. Just excited for football. A lot of stuff going on. Obviously, it's the off season. Relatively quiet on my perspective. You've had a pretty wild off season for your Giants, but how you feeling about that?
Yeah, feeling pretty good. I mean, we had some pretty good signings in Bobby Okereke, Jamison Crowder. We just made a signing today, Ashawn Robinson from the Rams.
Yeah.
But yeah, we signed a lot of wide receiver depth. And yeah, it's pretty good how the Giants offseason went.
Yeah, I didn't know you guys signed Crowder. It's actually a good pickup. I always liked him. And he doesn't have too far to travel, right? I mean, just right in New York as well, right? He's still
Yeah,
with the Jets, right? He was with the Jets last year?
yeah, he was
Or is he
with the
somewhere
Jets.
else?
Yeah, he was with the Jets last year, so he doesn't even need to move stadiums.
No, not at all. Yeah, for sure. So what's your guys' first pick? The number
25, number 25.
25. Okay. Do you have anyone in mind on your perspective for the first round that you kind of want to see your Giants get?
Yeah, so we definitely have weaknesses in wide receiver, cornerback, and inside offensive line, especially like centers and guards.
Hmm.
So at 25, we definitely I definitely have wide receiver in mind in Jordan Addison or Quentin Johnson maybe. I'd be glad if Zay Flowers dropped down to us. His
That'd
draft
be awesome.
his draft
Yeah.
stock has risen like so much since the combine. But in cornerbacks, we could definitely take somebody like Deontay Banks from Maryland. He's like a big body lockdown corner. And Emmanuel Forbes from Mississippi. He's also one of my favorite cornerback prospects, and he could definitely be a good pickup for us. And if offensive inside offensive line, we could even wait for the second round to take right there. And Steve Avila from TCU, he's one of my favorite prospects. But um, probably if we did take inside offensive line at 25, we'd probably take John Michael Schmitz from Minnesota. He's by far the best um, offensive lineman. Well, like center guard in the class.
Yeah, I know you guys have kind of struggled with that the past few years of just having a solid offensive line. We've been the opposite, where we've had a pretty solid offensive line and kind of nothing around it all that well, so or it just doesn't work out. So, but been there. 2019 season, we had a pretty atrocious offensive line. So, but once you build it up, man, really things start to move, and you guys have obviously Saquon. Uh, Fingers crossed he'll sign that franchise tag. But yeah, I mean, once that gets moving, everything just seems to go a lot smoother and a little bit easier. So that's awesome. I guess going from your perspective, looking at the Browns, what do you see that the Browns like major needs, or what do you think that going into this draft that we can kind of improve on?
Definitely defensive tackle depth. Um, I saw over free agency that you guys signed a few defensive tackles. Um, but you could definitely take another one like Moro Jomo from Texas. He's one of my favorite defensive line prospects, and he is like pretty much projected to drop down to you guys. He's not the biggest type of guy, but he's crazy athletic for a defensive tackle. He came, I think, third in all defensive tackles at the combine. So he could be a good pickup that could develop into a solid starter, but could definitely improve depth. Also linebacker and cornerback, slash safety. One of my favorite corner is Jartavius Martin from Illinois, and he can play safety too, so he could be a backup for somebody like Juan Thornhill, but who you guys picked up in free agency. But he could also play slot corner, which could be a pretty good pickup somewhere in day 2, day 3. And then also a linebacker in Noah Sewell. He was projected first round at the beginning of the year, and he still had a great season, but and he's pretty athletic, and he's kind of and he can pass rush too, which you guys kind of need a pass rushing linebacker.
Yeah, we have a lot of position groups that we've just kind of throwing band-aids on for years, man. Like our defensive tackle group has been, one of the worst in the NFL for a few years now. And our linebackers, well, we have JOK, but other than that, like a lot of these guys are developmental prospects that really never really took off, and we've been kind of using 1-year contracts to fill that void, and same thing with kind of like the defensive end. It's been we've had obviously Myles Garrett, but also Clowney, but I mean he's just not really worked out in our favor all that well, and not having him back is just kind of like, okay, we need some guys that can move, but also can really just our run defense was horrible last year. So that's definitely a big pickup that we're going to need to focus on in this draft, in my opinion. But what you kind of touched on too is safety, because Juan Thornhill is great. We also we let go of John Johnson, but yeah, we don't have any depth there anymore. One of our draft picks from I think 2 years ago, Richard LeCount, I think we cut halfway through the season. I'm not sure if he's on a practice squad or anything anymore, but I mean, he's gone. So our depth at safety is pretty limited. So yeah, I think something like that would be ideal, right? So those 3 groups are definitely needed. And like offensively, me and the other guy I do this with, his name's Nabil, we were also talking about I could even see us getting another running back, just because. Another running back, another receiver, even though we got Elijah Moore from the Jets, and also we signed Marquise Goodwin. Those are good, guys, but Goodwin's only a 1-year contract, so we definitely need some type of help in there. On offensive, do you see anything that the offensive kind of is like jumping out needing? Obviously, we have this transition now to Watson, and he's much different quarterback than we've had in the past, so a little bit more mobile, scrambles around in the pocket, and really we need a check down running back. I feel that we just don't have on the team. Nick Chubb's obviously the GOAT, but sometimes he's a really downhill runner, so he's not known for pass catching. So do you see anything on offense that we can kind of look at, improve, and kind of start to build here in the draft or post-draft?
Yeah, you were talking about running back, and there's definitely some good pickups that you could get, since you've got a ton. The Browns have a ton of late round picks, and somebody who the Giants and Jets are actually looking at right now, Sean Tucker from Syracuse. He's the check down running back that you're talking about. He's a great pass catcher. He's super strong. Like he's a power back, receiving back type of guy. And so Sean Tucker, he could be a very solid backup for you guys. But with your 3rd round pick, if you guys do want to expand your wide receivers, you could take Tank Dell from Houston if he does drop out of the 2nd round. because a lot of people don't really like him because of his size. I think he's only 5'10" or something.
Mm,
Um, but he's super shifty and he's a great pass catcher, and he could definitely improve depth and talent at your wide receiver position.
for sure. Yeah, I think the check down back is super important. It's obviously we had, Nick Chubb's our starter. We had Kareem Hunt for the past 3 years, and we had um, Dearness Johnson as our third string. Dearness signed with Jacksonville, and Kareem Hunt is still a free agent, but I don't see us bringing him back. So now we have Nick Chubb and Jerome Ford from which was our rookie this past year out of Cincinnati, but we haven't seen enough of them to kind of like give them the okay to be our backup, or I haven't seen anything with pass catching really. So yeah, something like that is definitely going to be beneficial looking into it. I do believe they're going to get another running back. Something like that is very important, and with receiver as well. I mean, obviously the top tier guys are going to go in the first round, second round. A lot of those, I think, like getting a second round receiver is more beneficial, and you get a lot of those kind of guys that stick out the most, in my opinion. That you'll just kind of see randomly, like, oh yeah, that dude was like kind of a steal in the second round or third round. But we definitely need to start looking for, and you guys kind of are in the same boat where it's like, who's our next guy as receiver? Like we have Amari Cooper, but I mean, Cooper is 30 now, and he only has 1 year left on his contract. So do we extend him? Because then it starts to dive into some money problems, right? So it's kind of like we got to start looking at solutions now, just so we don't kind of shoot ourselves in the foot for next year or the following year or whatever it kind of snowballs into. Um, so I guess the next thing is who you think is going to go first overall, because I've had so many different talks about this, man, and I do like I don't know how you feel, but I feel like Bryce Young is way too small. He's like like the dude's like 2 inches smaller than me, and like 20 pounds lighter than me, and I couldn't last in the NFL game. So how do you feel about Bryce Young, and who do you think is going to go one overall?
I feel that his size is definitely a big minus for many NFL scouts.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, I don't think he's going to go number one overall, but I do think that he's going to be a good, like, shifty kind of scrambler, escape the pocket, and then throw downfield type of quarterback. Like like he had one of the top, like a great offensive line at Alabama last year, and he still kind of ran around when he did not need to. So
Mm-hmm.
I think even if he does, I think he's going to go number two to the Texans. So that running around is going to do him really good because what do they have? They've got Kenyon Green and that one tackle who's been in the NFL for like 10, 12 years. So he doesn't have a great offensive line around him. So I think that him translating from college, it's going to take I think it's going to take a season, but
Mm-hmm.
then he's going to be pretty dominant. But I have CJ Stroud going number one because he's just such a great pocket passer that
Mm-hmm.
he can, and reads the defense so well that I think he's the best quarterback in the class in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I definitely think they're Bryce Young is going to go number two, even though I think they're throwing smoke screens out right now, saying they're not set on a quarterback. But I think the Texans are definitely going to scoop him, and I do think, I do think C.J. Stroud's going to go number one. I don't like to just basically focus on stats, but if you look at the stats last year, like Stroud was just like way above the rest, and if you look at Bryce Young's stats last year, they weren't amazing. They kind of dipped from his junior year, but I mean, you can't focus just on stats. And I'm a little concerned. If I had the first overall, I'm like, okay, I can go with one of these guys. I'm definitely going to go with the bigger, stronger dude. in this scenario is CJ Stroud. He's like 6'4", 6'5", like 230, 240. I mean, you got to go that route. You know what I mean? He's got an arm. Even though Bryce Young can, read a defense, and he is a really good quarterback, and I'd be happy with both. But yeah, my money has to be on CJ Stroud for sure. So
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and how do you feel about all the buzz around Will Levis being the projected number 2 pick?
so I've seen this pop up recently, right? In this past few days, like he just kind of skyrocketed over the weekend, I feel. Um, I mean, the dude's a beast, right? I mean, he's just yoked out of his mind. Same thing, he's like 6'5", he's a big dude. But like, yeah, I mean, there's some mechanical issues which are super fixable. But I don't see him being the second overall. I mean, I've been surprised before. But I mean, in my opinion, I would bet Anthony Richardson goes over him. But I mean, that's what I would go, especially if I was like Seattle, right? I'd probably go with Richardson. I got Geno on a 3-year deal. I'd get Richardson, have him sit behind Geno for a few years, develop him, and that is going to be a beast. But I mean, I think Levis just fits the Colts so well, where I do see him going in the top 5. But
Yeah,
number 2 might be pushing it. Might be pushing it. I don't
yeah.
know. But
I I I like Anthony Richardson as an athlete. Like he'd be a good track star.
dude,
Uh,
absolute athlete for sure. That's the best way to describe him.
but he's like the definition of a boomer bust. Like
Yeah.
whoever takes him is taking a huge risk with taking him with their top 5 pick.
Yeah, and I think going back a few years, I mean, I think I felt the same exact way about Lamar Jackson, where I mean, he could just be freaking awesome in the NFL, or I mean, he just fall flat on his face because of how he plays. And right now, I was at 5 years in. Now I'm kind of like in the middle of the road because he had 2 really really good years, and then now he's kind of like an okay year, and then just injuries. So, but I mean, yeah, Richardson can go either way. It's a huge risk on anyone that takes him, but I think he's worth it. I think he's worth the risk. Yeah, as a straight athlete, man, like you don't see too many of these kind of guys that are like just that. I don't know, just big, quick, and strong. But we never know. The NFL draft's crazy, man. Things happen. I can't believe. People move backs. People trade out. Like last year with AJ Brown getting traded, Hollywood Brown, like all these guys that I was like, wow, I thought no way they would be, traded or stuff like that. They get shifted around so quickly. I always get surprised every year. So who knows what happens? But dude, thanks so much for being on. It's good meeting you, and yeah, this is a great time. So thanks so much, and hopefully your Giants have a pretty good draft, and best of luck to the season next year.
Yeah, thanks for having me.